Hello summoners and welcome back to another ProGuides video. I'm Kangas and today we're going to be talking about the best jungle paths for Preseason 2021. These paths have been tested by our challenger junglers on various different champions, and we've divided them up between the two different general jungle playstyles so that you can find the best fit for you. But real quick, before we get into it, if you're interested in content like this, but for Wild Rift, make sure to head on over to the channel that we set up specifically for that game. Anyway, without further ado, let's get into it. First, let's talk about the two categories. Generally speaking, junglers either fall into the fun-loving herbivore or the ruthless carnivore class. It's not always completely black and white, but this sort of serves as a general guideline. Carnivore junglers are the champs that feed off of the enemy champions rather than gaining advantages through passively farming it up in the jungle. These junglers want to be as aggressive as possible, and are the ones that you see invading, fighting over Scuttle Crab, or going for tons of ganks, constantly applying pressure to the map, starting as early as level 2. A few good examples are Lee Sin, Kha'Zix, Xin Zhao, Rengar, Jarvan, and Elise. Some pretty common traits in carnivore jungle champs are high mechanical skill sets, assassins or assassin-like kits, and strong 1v1 dueling. Now let's discuss the herbivores. The champs in this category scale hard and prefer to farm up in the safety of their own jungle. There's not much risk when farming it up on your own side of the map, aside from invades, but with good vision control, you at least have a strong chance of getting some levels and easily earned income. Some of these champs immediately come online with their ults at level 6, like Amumu, Nocturne, and Skarner, while others get stronger at other spikes. For example, Zac really shines at level 9, when his slingshot is maxed out, while Yi needs to get to mid or late game to really do much at all, with at least 2 or 3 items being needed before he can reliably carry fights. It's worth noting that junglers in the herbivore category come from all types of champ classes. Shyvana and Yi are hard-scaling, pure DPS champs, while Nunu, Amumu, and Zac are tanks. Playing an herbivore champ also doesn't mean that you're completely helpless when it comes to fighting the other jungler 1v1. While certain carnivores are certainly stronger and excel at winning 1v1s, if it comes down to it, champs like Shyvana and Yi can fight back with some pretty good early game damage. So it's not that the herbivores are helpless so much as their ganks aren't as reliable, and that they can consistently get guaranteed scaling, as long as they farm up and keep up the respawn timers. Now that we talked about these two classes, which one do you think fits your playstyle more? Or maybe you're someone in the middle? Be sure to let us know in the comments below. It's really interesting to see the stats on things like this. So, with those categories defined, you identify which category your champ falls into, and then go about creating your jungle path. With carnivore junglers, a ton of options exist, since you will almost always be able to react to plays and participate in a fight as long as you're in range to do so. For example, Jarvan can easily show up to save an ally that's being ganked, and possibly outright turn the fight into a win. Compare this to somebody who lacks CC or a gap closer like Shyvana. With herbivores, your pathing will be a bit more stable, but that doesn't mean you have to be fully static every single game. For example, if you have a hard winning matchup, showing up for a counter gank is a great way to speed up your scaling. Or if the enemy jungler is ganking on the opposite side of the map, you're definitely able to do a bit of counter jungling on their camps. Jungling will always be a bit different game to game, and learning to adapt how the map is being played by both your team and the enemies is what makes it such a fun role. So, with all that said, let's get into the actual jungle paths. The most basic path for a quick level 3 gank is red to blue to Gromp, then gank, or blue to Gromp to red, then gank, depending on which buff you start. This is the standard path for champs with a lot of single target abilities and AD champs who rely heavily on their auto attacks, since all 3 camps have just one monster at them. The champs with AoE abilities will usually prefer to take down wolves and raptors between the 2 buffs for their level 3. The 3 single target camp path is most abusable by the champs who excel at getting kills early to snowball. Think Lee Sin and Elise, so be sure to look to do that almost every game on them. Next, let's say you have a top lane matchup like Renekton versus Jace. You know Renekton must all in to get a kill to win this lane, or he'll just be bullied out over time because of Jace's range. You're playing Elise, a champion that can easily set up Renekton to meet his win conditions. Because this lane is so volatile, and they will likely be fighting in the first few levels, you want to try and make sure that you are there as fast as possible. The jungle path we just talked about would apply here. Anytime there's a carry versus carry top lane matchup, or your top has a lot of early game damage and CC, you want to look to do this path to get them snowballing to a victory. Another path for level 3 is to do a same side clear. This means doing blue, Gromp, then wolves, or red, golems, then raptors. The benefit here is that you'll always end your path relatively close to the middle of the map. giving you a window where you can show up just as the enemy mid laner is trying to push for their level 3. Since most mid laners will contest the wave to try to get 3 first, it usually means that they're going to be overextended, giving you a chance to catch them when they're vulnerable. One thing to note is that if you do this path and then gank a side lane on the same side of the map, you risk losing all of your jungle in the other quadrant. So be careful before you commit to that. Sometimes a single kill, even first blood, isn't worth losing half your camps. While our previous path was to top lane, this pathing is to mid. You'll want to look to do it when the mid lane matchup is volatile, such as the enemy having an assassin mid that wants to hit level 3 fast for an all-in, or when your own laner has easy to land burst damage and CC. Think Twisted Fate, Annie, or Syndra. Some champs don't even need level 3 to get things started. You can go for level 2 ganks mid if you really want to get aggressive. Certain champs are much better at pulling these off than others, like Jarvan and Xin Zhao, who get their primary ganking tools with just 2 levels. But you can honestly look to do this with just about anyone. It's super low risk with a chance at earning a high reward. It obviously helps a lot if you have a laner with level 1 CC, but don't shy away even if that's not the case, since you can just path through mid to your blue buff with almost no time lost on your route. This next pathing option is a bit more advanced than the previous options. Vertical jungling is something we see all the time in pro play and high elo, but you can apply it in any game. It's when you decide to split the map between top side and bot side, and farm the quadrants on one side of those halves rather than the 2 quadrants closer to your base. Now you're taking part of the enemy's jungle, and there's a couple of advantages to doing this. For one, since you're stealing their camps away, you're automatically already ahead of the enemy. This is especially good if your laners can react to stop the enemy jungle from responding with counter jungling of their own on your side of the map. Number 2, you're basically serving as a battle ward, which means you yourself are scouting the enemy jungle and providing vision as to where they are. If you're in the top jungle and you don't see them, then odds are they're playing bot side, so your bot lane knows to back off, and your mid lane knows to lean to the top side of the lane. Also, now that you know that they are bot side, you can look to gank top with close to 0 chance of a counter gank. So, when is it a good idea to do this? You want a vertical jungle when you have an extremely strong laner in the side lane, like Draven bot or Jace top. Both of these champs generally win their lane matchups in the 2v2 or 1v1 setting, since they're bullies. But due to the nature of their kits, they also naturally shove the lane as part of winning it. They're also squishy and susceptible to dying to ganks. By playing on their side of the map exclusively, you're giving them free reign to bully lane with no chance of being ganked, since you're always close enough to counter, and the enemy has no reason to be on this side of the map anyway, since they don't have any camps. So, to set up to actually do the vertical jungling, there's going to be 2 options. The first involves invading the enemy buff on the side that you want to control. To do this, you need a strong level 1 ally with a lot of damage or CC. Again, let's use Jace as our example. We already know we want to play around him, and with his hammer Q slow and having 2 abilities level 1 thanks to his form swap, he's a great ally to look to invade with. In this hypothetical game, we're blue side, so we opt to invade the enemy red buff at 1 minute 20 seconds. We get there just as the camp spawns, and with the element of surprise, Jace should easily win a fight if there is one. Though most junglers start blue buff on red side, meaning odds are it's just a free camp. After red, we take raptors, warding the raptor bush, and then we path up to golems, hitting level 3 after we clear them out. This path means Jace is completely protected from ever being ganked early, thanks to your ward covering one side of the quadrant and you covering the other, and leaves you in a position where you can gank the enemy top laner if they're even a bit away from their tower. If the other jungler catches on and tries to respond by counter jungling your bot side, congratulations, you've now successfully set up a vertical jungle, and you have the map set up exactly how you want it. Jace gets to bully his laner, and you can even look to dive with a stacked wave, putting him even further ahead. You can also take Rift Herald later on since you have total topside control, spoon feeding even more gold straight to your carry top laner. So that scenario was based on level 1 invading. But what if your top laner is someone who is a strong laner but needs a couple of levels to get things going? In that case, you'll want to start in your own jungle and look to invade level 2, meaning you want a champ who is able to duel even that early in the game. Some of the strongest level 2 junglers to do this with are Lee Sin, Xin Zhao, Rengar, Jarvan, Nidalee, and Kindred. Weaker junglers can pull this off, but only if you have lane priority and you trust your laners to actually move and help you. We'll keep this similar to last scenario, assuming that we're blue side and you want to start vertical jungling to the top side. After starting your blue, you will immediately book it to the enemy red. And since most junglers will be starting on their blue buff, it should be a free camp, since they'll usually also take small camps on their way. If they're already there, wait in the bush until they start tanking the camp. Then, just start attacking them, leaving them completely unable to win the now unfair duel. If they weren't already at the red buff, just proceed like last time, running down the raptors, warding the bush while you're there, clearing them out, and then heading up to clear golems. So, like I said, vertical jungling is something you see mostly with the pros, and while it may be a bit advanced, you can definitely pull it off in your own games. Do you think you'll try to use it? Let us know in the comments below. We're interested to see if you guys go the extra mile, or if you think it's not quite worth the effort. The last general jungle path is the full clear. This one's pretty self-explanatory. You just kill all the camps in the quadrant you start in before pathing over to the other quadrant and killing all 3 camps there. This would mean doing red golems raptors, wolves blue then gromp, or blue gromp wolves, raptors red then golems. Like I said, full clear is pretty self-explanatory. Just make sure you know how to clear linearly for the quickest route. Most of the time, it's the herbivores that lean towards the farm-heavy route, since they want to avoid early conflict, while most carnivores will be ganking before the herbivores are even done with their clear. That said, there are a few champs who fall into both categories who want to start off like a herbivore. Take Evelynn for example. She prefers to full clear, since she really needs level 6 to come online. But once she does, she can gank non-stop with her perma-stealth, making her a champion that transitions from one category to the other at a certain point in the game. Alright, just to briefly recap. We've split up the junglers into 2 categories, talked about the different paths, when they're best, and how to use them effectively. But remember, jungling is the most dynamic role in League of Legends. Not only are you dealing with your own jungle matchup, but laners affect things too. So you'll sometimes have different paths even on the exact same champ. Try to apply everything we talked about here in your own games. I'm sure you'll feel the difference when you start jungling with a purpose in mind. Well, that's all we have for jungle pathing in Preseason 11. I hope you liked the video, and be sure to let us know what you think in the comments down below. I can't wait to see you guys back in the next one, but until then, good luck on the Rift, stay hydrated, and wash those hands.